technology. Oh, good. Yeah, good morning. Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning is Canto 4, Chapter 14, text number 42. My name is Jaya Sila Das. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text number 42. Nangasya Vamsorajarshe Ishashamshtatum Ahati Amogha Viryahi Nripa Vamsesmin Keshavashraya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sila Prabhupada. Sila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Anga should not be stopped. For in this family, the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The purity and hereditary succession is called Amogha Virya. The pious seminal succession in the twice-born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas especially, as well as in the families of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purificatory processes, beginning with Garbhadan Samskar, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure, and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. I can't help but laugh. It's a big subject matter, how to get married in the world. And choosing partner is a big discussion and one of the biggest decisions in one's life. And here it seems that by the will of providence, that Maharaj Anga somehow or other was married to the daughter of death personified, which we hear from this narration of the story of King Vena was not a very auspicious arrangement. But such is the will of providence and the unfolding of our journey in the material world. Continuing Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter, as described in the following verses. Om Magana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual masters forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Nangasya Vamsuraj Sher Esha Samshtatum Arhati Amogha Virya Hinripa Vamsesmin Keshavashraya. Translation once more, the sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Anga should not be stopped. For this family, for in this family, the semen was very powerful and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. So, we've been hearing, coming up to this verse, that I'm just reflecting a little bit on text 34 all the way back there, that all good fortune and opulence is awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So human society is a very special society. There are societies of all kinds of living entities in this world. The birds are flying and taking their places in the trees. The insects are moving around in the earth and in different ways, different species of insects are moving. And they have a society, and the society is pretty much focused, in fact, completely focused on the business of eating and sleeping and mating and defending. That is the lower species of life. But the human form of life is meant for something different. We hear from Srimad Bhagavatam that the purpose of a human form of life should not simply be for sense gratification, which is available to the hogs and the dogs and all the other species of life, but rather one is supposed to have it chalk out another direction, and that is the whole system of Vedic knowledge and Vedic civilization, that there is a progressive march towards spiritual emancipation for the human being. Kamashana indriya pritir labo jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasha na arto yascheha karma bi. Jivasya tattva jignasha, that the living being in the human form of life is meant for inquiring into the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal. So this is the problem. The other things have to be performed, the activities of eating and sleeping and mating and defending. No problem with that. But there's a way human beings have to be trained how to execute those activities. But that is not the goal of the human form of life. Narto yascheha karma bi. That should not be the arto or the benefit of the human form of life. But one should understand in human civilization what is the goal of life, and that is to inquire into the absolute truth and to reestablish our lost connection. Cannot be ultimately broken, because that is the nature of all of the living entities. They are parts and parcels of the Supreme, but we have forgotten this connection. We need to reconnect. So that is the good fortune that will come, and opulence that will be experienced in human society. And in that verse of the text number 34 back, it is saying that human society is godless. It is destined for ruination. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport, individually or collectively. So if we neglect as individuals, we'll be destined for ruination. And as a society, if we neglect the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there will be no good fortune and no real opulence. And what we will take to be good fortune and opulence will simply be ignorance. And that is the power of the illusory energy of the Lord. We are thinking in this way that we are making progress. The goal of life is sense gratification. And it seems that Maya is so powerful that she can bewilder all of us very easily into thinking, yes, I am doing very well in this world. By the absorption in sense gratification, it appears that we're making progress. But we know very clearly, and by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, that this is not the right direction, and that what appears to be progress is actually regress. Seems that we, yeah, I think they talk about the standard of living. Yes, the standard of living is certainly increased. We're all sitting in very comfortable arrangements in homes that are being constructed by technology and newer technology and new technology. And it appears very much that we're making progress in the standard of living. Yeah, and no one could, in some ways, again, it would take very good, clear intelligence to argue the case that it's actually not the case. For example, you could say the buildings are very comfortable, but actually, are they? Not really. And they're not very pretty. I was just passing through a little place called Helensville the other evening, and one of the buildings there was very attractive building. It had been built. It was actually the post office. So in that time, they thought that the post office should be a very substantial building because it was seen to be an important building. But now it's reused as some other kind of dwelling. It's not a post office anymore because the post system has changed so much as technology changes. So now we're trained, we're manipulated, we're conditioned to thinking, and you might be you might have heard these things many times, that function is more important than form. So we think, oh yes, that's what the acharyas of materialism, the leaders of materialism, the big industrialists and entrepreneurs, they're telling us that yes, this is more important, that you have the function. So you go for the function. The function is, and we see houses, you see them all over Auckland, especially out here near the temple. There's quite a big development here, in many places all over Auckland, what to speak of the rest of the country and the whole world. All these developments are going on. And we become bewildered by the advertising and manipulated. We are meant to be led by the leaders into a prosperous and good fortune, a life of good fortune and prosperity. And you see, it's not actually the case. We make a joke often as we pass by these different developments. You see the big, massive, big signboards all along for, 40, 50 meters or maybe 100 meters. Stunning new homes, stunning new homes. And the people think, oh, stunning new homes. And we make the joke that the only thing that's really stunning is the price. The price is definitely going to be stunning. Because if you look at the buildings, they're simply square boxes. And these cheating people are, it's just the way of the world, not singling them out really, but that's the whole world, the material world. And they think, no, I'm doing a good job. I'm producing a building that's affordable for the people who can't afford the $2 or $3 million home. They've got one here. And it's a box virtually, and often it's a box on top of a box next to another box, and it just looks like a whole bunch of boxes. But we're told, and alongside that advertisement, stunning new homes, there's another one somewhere else that says green city living. I've mentioned this before in the past. Green city living again. Oh, green, that means country. That's why it's just on the edge of the city. Green, oh, so we're out in the country. City living, so you can have the best of both worlds. You can have green city living. Oh my gosh. Isn't it a manipulation? Isn't it a bewilderment? And the young people especially, they can't afford much else. In fact, anybody I don't think can afford much. But anyway, especially the young people, they're looking to make a mark in life and get ahead in life, to experience the good fortune of life and the opulence of living in the material world, but they're being led to the slaughterhouse. The world is filled with cheaters, and there are people who are being cheated. And the choice we have is to choose to either become a cheater or to be cheated. Take your pick. And usually people scramble to think, well, I don't want to be cheated. Don't want to be cheated. So guess what your other option is? You can learn. You can go to school and learn, and go to university and learn how to become a big exploiter of the material energy. But mind you, that will cost you a lot of money. And that's why they introduce student loans, and you get stuck there too. Oh my goodness me. So as soon as we shift the goal from spiritualism to materialism, then everything is lost. All auspiciousness is gone, and all good fortune and opulence, and we go further and further into the Kali Yuga. Yeah. So without God consciousness, there will be no good fortune in human society, and that requires the leaders. We're talking here about the seminal line of Dhruva Maharaj. So we see how careful the society was, the leaders, the Brahmanas, and the Kshatriyas, and Prabhupada mentions also the Vaishyas, the three higher orders of life, especially the Brahmins and Kshatriyas, how carefully they looked after the society. The Brahmins saw that there was an imbalance, so they had to speak very clearly and in a very unbiased way, in a detached way, and in a detached way from their own aggrandizement for their own benefit, but in a very concerned way for the human society. That is the actual Brahmanas. The actual Brahmana Vaishnavas are like that. For their own self, they're not so interested. But when they see that there's some difficulty, just like we're hearing in today's verse, they were ready to take action. So this requires God-conscious leaders. That is why they first took action. And again, this is an interesting point, that they took action to remove Vena, because they had tried everything to try to rectify his mentality, that this is not appropriate. The leader of all the prajas, or those the dependent living entity, you're supposed to act in a way to protect them, so on and so forth. But he couldn't hear. He'd become totally bewildered by the external energy. So whether it's in many, many thousands of years ago, or whether it's today, Bhogaishvaya Prashaktanam Taya Paritachetasam, that those who are enamored by this material energy, they become bewildered by that material energy, and they don't know how to act. So this requires that the leaders are God conscious, and when there's not a God conscious leader, just after Vena was removed by the Brahmins, then thieves and rogues begin to thrive. So they took some action because it was becoming just too much. Vena's had stopped all these yagyas. He was wanting everyone to worship him only, and so on. So they took the action of removing him. But then they had to consider what to do. So they didn't want to take up the role of the Kshatriyas, because that is not the business of the Brahmanas. So it's meant that the Kshatriyas should be there. But because the Kshatriya had been removed and there was no proper king to administer the country or the world, then the rogues and rascals, the thieves, the dacoits, call it what you will, began to flourish more and more and more, and they were plundering. And again, the Brahmanas pondered, wow, this is amazing. So again, the influence of Kali Yuga, very, very powerful. although this was not in Kali Yuga. Don't worry, don't go there. I can't remember the timing exactly. But without the proper leadership, then thieves and rogues will flourish. So they had killed Vena. It didn't take up the government's job, because that is the business of the Kshatriyas. And they therefore decided that they would take another action. And this has to happen in the material world. We also saw that in Srila Prabhupada's desire to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, to fulfill the mission of his Guru Maharaj, the Parampara, and ultimately the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that the holy names of Krishna would be distributed throughout the entire world for the benefit of all human society. How to take that to the human society. Sorry, I'm just trying to get back to that detachment. I've got a couple of notes here that I'm just trying to make sure that I cover these different points. Yes, so Srila Prabhupada had also that similar, not the same, but similar challenge, how to push on this Krishna consciousness movement. So we'll see in first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada very clearly is describing in even parts of the second canto that this process of Bhagavad Dharma, the chanting of Hare Krishna, will be sufficient, and that one can, whatever condition he's born in, it doesn't matter. Palinda Pulkasha, the Huns, the Ambiras, all the different personalities can all be delivered, Bhagavatam says, by the potency of the Lord coming through his pure devotees. Kirata Hurinanda Palinda Pulkasha, Abira Sumba Yavana Kasharaya. So you can all be delivered by the potency of the Supreme Lord coming through his bona fide representative. So Srila Prabhupada, with great faith and conviction in the words of Shastra, took up that mission. So he had, with that full faith, he began the Krishna consciousness movement. He chanted Hare Krishna, he distributed prasadam. People came in. We all know the whole story of Prabhupada's bringing Krishna consciousness out of India to the rest of the world also. But then he could see that even though it's said in the Kali Yuga, it's very difficult to reestablish the varnas and the ashrams, so much so that it seems impossible. And when Srila Prabhupada said, now I wish to introduce the varna ashram, so the devotees were thinking a little immaturely, because the fact is that we all were very immature. And they were saying, as Srila Prabhupada was trying to explain to them how to do this, that this was such an important thing. They said, oh, but Srila Prabhupada, we are transcendental to Varnashram. And I'm sure you've read that and heard that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Different discussions were there. Ramananda Roy was speaking, and Lord Chaitanya was encouraging him to speak more and more. He explained the goal of life, Varnashram, that one should perform one's prescribed duties to please the personality of Godhead, that this is what is given by the sages. And Lord Chaitanya says, go further. If you know more, please go further. So it appears that he goes further and further into Prema Pramartha Mahan, that the goal of life is actually the pure love of Godhead. So devotees were responding to Srila Prabhupada, but Srila Prabhupada, we're transcendental. And then Srila Prabhupada very suddenly responded. He says, then why are you falling down? Why are you falling down? If you're Vaishnava. So the Vaishnava standard, and we use the word devotee, I would like to suggest that we're aspiring devotees. We're aspiring Vaishnava. Because the Vaishnava is the topmost Brahmana. So the personality like Srila Prabhupada is always alert and not sticking to some stereotyped concept that, oh, now I know how to spread Krishna consciousness. But he was always conscious, conscious. How are they doing? How is this being understood? And how is it being practiced and implemented in our society? So Srila Prabhupada was seeing that there is a need to make adjustment, just like these sages are saying. They have acted in a certain way. They've removed Vena, they've killed him. But now, after some time, they're seeing, ooh, there's still a problem. So they're not callous and just walk away from the whole thing. They don't want to take up the government's position specifically, but they know that something has to be done. So they're again reflecting, what do we have to do now for the benefit of human society? So they were now going to make an adjustment. So they're pondering, they're discussing, they decide what is the appropriate action. There's a word called responsibility. I think I might have discussed that last week, but responsibility, if you cut it into two parts, is the response, you have to respond, ability, responsibility, the ability to respond according to time, place, and circumstance. And that is the task for all of us too. We are all in the same situation, how to respond to the ever-changing circumstances of our lives. One minute we're a child, the next minute we're a youth, the next minute we're married, the next minute you have children, next minute you have growing up children, next minute the children go to university, and then you're getting older. So it's always changing. So the point here is that we all, as Krishna conscious people, conscious of what was happening here, is not the exact same as it is now. Things are always in the state of change in the material world. So we have to develop the ability to respond to the ever-changing circumstances. That is called responsibility. And this shows up in all stages of life, all walks of life, all varnas and ashrams. All these always be fine-tuning. Just like when you try and cross the ocean, if you do it, especially, or let's say, the ocean, especially on a sailboat, they used to, again, this used to be the case. I was thinking, how can you cross the ocean? But that's how people did that. To go to America from Europe, the settlers to America, they went on sailboats. To come to New Zealand, they didn't have any machine-driven boats. It was sailboats. It's like, wow, how could you do such a thing? But that's how it happened. People did that. They didn't till the land with tractors. There were no tractors. They did it with bullocks, amazingly. But it was very good for the world. It was very good for the land. It was very good. And now it's we go from goodness, we go to passion and passionately pursue the wrong direction. So we're running. I don't know if you've seen that. They used to show it when I was a child. There used to be these pictures, and you might have seen it. They were called lemmings. There's a creature, a lemming, I think in some place in Europe especially, you see at a certain time of the year, thousands of them in the forest come out, these little rat-like looking things, and they all head in one direction. So this nature show was showing, and they showed, and they followed the lemmings. And what they do is something amazing, but they all throw themselves off of this very high cliff and perish in the bottom. It's down into the ocean, and it's a phenomenon. I haven't gone back to check it out. Maybe I should Google it. But the lemming, so they're gone to their ruination, and we see that's the way of the modern civilization. We think we're going somewhere. Everyone's going in that direction. So guess what? We all follow, and everyone's heading in the direction, but we're heading off of a cliff. If we actually step back and study what is actually going on, but because of passionate activity, people care to take the time to. And again, we could be seen as being, oh, we're pushing people. We're saying that they don't take the time, but actually, that's the misdirection of the leadership. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to, in whatever capacity we can, to give the opportunity for people to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada is available in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavatam comes alive if we carefully look to what Srila Prabhupada is presenting there, with the potency of the previous acharyas, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. If we allow the Lord to speak, then everything will become very clear. People will get light from this Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishne Swadamopagate Dharma Jnanadi Bisaha Kalo Nashtadrisham Nisha Puranarko Danodita. This beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam has arisen just after the departure of the Supreme Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. People who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of the age of Kali will get light from this Purana. So when we can allow Lord Krishna to speak to us through the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the constant beauty of the parampara system is that each acharya is hearing from the previous acharya and then presenting it in such a way so that the audience can understand. And we saw, Srila Prabhupada said when he first heard Srila Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur speaking, he said he could hardly understand. This is our Srila Prabhupada speaking. He was a young man at the time, but he could hardly understand. Why? Because he was so erudite. He was such a scholar, Srila Bhaktisaranta Saraswati Thakur. He would speak in such an erudite fashion that practically, Prabhupada said, it was very difficult to understand exactly what he was saying. But he knew, he could, he understood that he is presenting something very special. So he continued to hear. And then Srila Prabhupada, this is the way forward. So one could say, well, what was the need of anything else than Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's Prabhupada, his presentation? But the average person in a modern time would not be able to assimilate the knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada, this is the way the parampara works. Srila Prabhupada was encouraged by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, please, you write these books. You're educated in this English language and present it in a way which is just suitable for their understanding. And that was Prabhupada's prayer in Jaladuta, like that. Please, my Lord, give me the benediction of being able to present this in a way which will be just suitable for their understanding. And we see that the Bhagavatam, the Srila Prabhupada's purpose, the way he's translated and the way he's written so caringly and lovingly, his purpose, that anyone can understand this if we are simply allowed. And that is our job, as I think I mentioned last week. Our job is to scaffold, and we use that word in education circles, to scaffold. Someone has certain knowledge and you want them to come to a higher level of knowledge, so you have to provide a scaffolding. Just like if you're climbing high, you have to have scaffolding. So the job of the followers and representatives of Srila Prabhupada is to scaffold people, to just somehow make it attractive enough, to make it so that we can scaffold them. Hey, you can understand these books. Actually, you can. It's not about religion per se. It's about how to make your life fully joyful and connected and progressive, both for you and your families and for your descendants. So when we can attract them in by the various presentations, then they will be able to turn the pages of the Bhagavatam and Krishna will speak to them through the agency of the parampara. And then they will get light from this Purana. So these sages that we're hearing here, they decided to take the next, they were responsible. So to bring things from the catastrophe, as mentioned, in the family of Dhruva Maharaj, it was a great catastrophe. It wasn't expected. Hey, isn't that life? The catastrophes, you don't expect them. We expect it to be a smooth sailing. But back to that example, you have to trim the sails if you're going across the ocean. It's a constant business. And it is the same. Another example is an airplane. They say the airplane is off course 99% of the time. When you're driving down the road, you're off course 99% of the time. Why? Because you're always adjusting. You've got to adjust the steering wheel. If you're flying an airplane, you just got to keep adjusting so that you're going and go forward and adjust. And if you're crossing the ocean on a boat, you have to trim the sails so that they'll catch the wind this way, and then catch it that way, and then go across with the wind, and go forward when it's favorable, tacking and like that. So this is the way of the very perilous material world, because it's fraught with so many challenges. Yeah. To move forward. So just going back into the purport, where are we doing for time? I'm just checking. Where did we start? Okay, well, maybe I can ask for some reflections. Yes, I'll do that. If anyone has any reflections, something that's piqued your interest in the translation purport and these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, anything I've been discussing or presenting, if there's anything, it's just you want, and reflection just means you reflect back that point, just something that's stuck there in your thoughts. Oh yeah, that's whatever it may be, or you, yeah. So I think we'll just see if there's any reflections, and then if you have any, we'll deal with. We'll hear them. It might broaden things a little, and then I can finish with a few other comments. So any reflections, feel free.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
It's
Krishna.
a beautiful Bhagavatam class in the morning, emphasizing the importance of the goal of human life. It is not just a life as the animal have. There is a difference in the importance of human life, which is very much important, Brahma Jigyasa. So that's the difference between the human life and animal life, which you explained so nicely with good examples. And society, that's why in society, the leaders, the big leaders, they are needed so that they become God conscious and they can lead the people in general in the right perspective, so that they align with the Brahma Jigyasa and they can prosper easily, not by leading through these materialistic opulences that don't help. As you explained, the boxes, we are just following the boxes as a house, and we are so amazed with those so square boxes, but we don't really understand. It is only for what?
So yes, how long can it go on? Huh?
Yeah.
That's the question. How long can it go on? It cannot. Ultimately, again, we go to Srila Prabhupada, and he said that this modern civilization must collapse. And it's quite another catastrophe. We think, oh no, it will keep on, but it cannot keep on. At some stage, the whole falsity of this modern way of life is destined. We've seen that. Again, history has shown that the different empires, different ways of life have all folded and collapsed. So we think, no, it will continue. But yeah. So yeah, good point that you're making. Again, just that point of the difference. It's such a huge difference in one sense. The human form of life is not meant. It is meant for tapodivyam putraka yena sattvam sudyed yasmad brahma sokyam. What we're actually searching for here is spiritual happiness. That's what everyone actually is searching for. We get the spiritual happiness that we actually every living being hankers for, that permanence, blissful existence, but it can't be found here. So as you said, the leadership has to be able to introduce this for the people.
Yes.
Any other comments or any other reflections?
And that's why this again. Sorry, that's why people, when they go to the apartment, living their own house, which is surrounded by the nature, and they feel suffocated after some time, because once that flourishness or opulences get exhausted, they become so frustrated. They again come back to the village life because they already left the connection of the nature. So
Yes.
naturally, as Prabhupada was mentioning, once you get disconnected from the nature, you have to suffer for that, and that's what they become suffocated and then come back again to village life, because in the village life only you can see the nature's attachment, nowhere else. The box cannot give you the happiness. They give only the material happiness, not the nature's happiness, which is again spiritually connected.
You
So
used
that's what.
let me pause you for 1 second. You've used a very nice word. I like the suffocating. So it's this, as you said, the nature will give us life, and the boxes and the concrete will suffocate us until we feel our soul is suffocating in the whole thing. I like that.
Thank you, Prabhu. So that was actually alluring us towards the material attachment or material happiness. As you explained about the signboard, big signboard, green city, and all this. This all the allurement, material allurement, but people doesn't understand the background. Once they understand, and they become so frustrated, and then they turn around to change their lifestyle and becomes a village, and they search for the nature's connection, and that is what is going on in circle.
That was also, thank you for that reflection again. That was Gandhi's idea, and Srila Prabhupada was very, what would you say, very attracted by that, and he saw that Gandhi's idea was that that India should show this example of self-sufficient village life. That would be the way to show the world how to live properly. But unfortunately, history shows that he was assassinated, and the other leaders that he gained the freedom for India through, they decided, no, we will not follow this Gandhi's idea. Jinnah and other, whoever it was, Nehru, I think, that they said, no, we will go for industrialization of India. Why will we be a downtrodden? Let us be like the West. Let us have big cities. Let us have the industry. We will be very industrially motivated. And that is the downfall. And Gandhi's idea of self-sustaining villages is sustainable. That is sustainable life. And we see now in the West, it's interesting. You see India and the Eastern countries headlong going into industrialization. And you see the West, if you go a little bit underneath, you'll find the frustration, the suffocation that you mentioned. And we see even the leadership desperately trying to make some adjustments for the global warming and the economic, all the problems that they're faced with. They know that the only way is to check, but they're doing it in a demonic way without God consciousness. Therefore, their plans, Prabhupada's explained it, elaborately throughout first and second canto Srimad Bhagavatam, that kind of leadership, adjusting, we've got a problem, we'll make an adjustment materially, it will never work, it is destined to fail again and again and again. The only solution is to develop God-conscious leadership.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Beautiful explanation. Yeah, remember the bagpiper and the mice, the story back in our childhood. So nowadays, this is what happening. The leaders are the bagpiper and the people in general is the mice. So they follow that bagpiper and ultimately they just fall into the sea.
Yeah,
Sea
like
of
that. Yes, the sea of
Nescience.
nescience. Good choice of word. The sea of ignorance, and we're all floating around. But guess what? Sometimes we may float for a little while, but we'll sink in that ocean. So it's time for a revolution. The revolution physically, practically may happen in the world when people are so, and Prabhupada said they'll flee their homes, they'll go to the country, and we're supposed to be there to receive them. That is also important. Prabhupada wanted that when people flee the cities, that we, Krishna devotees, will be able to show them the example. So this is the next stage. When Prabhupada, just before he left the world, a few months before, I was just reading the other day, Tamal Krishna Maharaj wrote a letter on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada at that time couldn't write the letters, so Tamal was taking the dictation and making the letter. So he was speaking to the leaders in Australia. Srila Prabhupada saying that I'm so happy that you've purchased this property, the new Govardhan, and this is the next phase of my movement of spreading Krishna consciousness, because we have to come to that point that the preachers in the city will preach Krishna consciousness, distribute the books, do the Hari Nams, and then tell the people that the way is forward is to read the Bhagavatam. And when they read the Bhagavatam, they will hear about the way of life. And that life that they hear, the alternative, is the life depending on nature, depending on Krishna manifesting through the material nature like that. And that this simple living and high thinking, the protection of cows and Brahminical culture, the growing of our own food, it sounds impossible, but Prabhupada, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And it has to be done. We've tried and we've failed in many ways. We've not been able to do, but then it's not that we abandon this instruction. No, okay, we may have made mistakes. We may have been immature. We may not have been able to in the way that we planned to and tried to, but think again, be like the sages, be able to respond, be responsible. Now you try again. Maybe it was too grandiose. You're trying to do it. You're trying to do everything perfectly. So start in a small way. Start in a way that you can actually sustain. Learn how to live more simply, etc., etc. So that will be we can work together cooperatively. The preaching must go on while the cities are still standing. And they point us to the Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavatam points us back to nature, as you said.
Yes.
Big subject and a big responsibility for all. But Krishna willing, everything will take a turn for the better. Let's at least try our little bit we can to help. Okay, so I think I should finish at that point. Thank you so much for your reflections. And
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Please accept my respectful obeisances. Very nice class for modern civilization, comparison with the Bhagavatam and adjustment. I have one question.
Please.
That Sunita's father is death personified. Means Jamraj?
Ah. Oh, are you asking?
Yeah, please.
Okay, let's go see if we can get anything. to focus on that. Maharaj, however, the same became in association with his wife Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. I'm very sorry, I can't give you a definitive answer. I do remember reading this, but it was a number of years ago, and there is some place, it may be just coming in the purports in this whole subject matter. I haven't read it recently. So I'm sure I wish I had the research department that could give you the answer. I don't have it straight off. But death personified, wow. It's there in the Bhagavatam, definitely an explanation and unpacking of this.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm sorry I can't answer your question very suitably.
No,
but
okay,
maybe we have to continue, and we might find that in one of the purports it's there.
Okay, thank you. And your example about that in Europe, cliffing down. So means what's that species they are cliffing down?
Oh, okay. They're called lemmings. Lemmings. I don't know even how to spell it. Lemmings, maybe.
Okay.
Lemmings. So if you have a look and see, I might later, if I remember, I might have a
I'll
look.
search in Google.
Yes, you might find it. It's quite an amazing thing. Thousands and tens of thousands of them all go through the forest, and they and they just throw themselves off. It's
okay.
I'd be interested.
Just like modern civilization.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah,
and
nice
then Prabhu
example.
gave that example. He connected it. I remember that also. It's a little bit like that story of the Pied Piper that we hear about. He would play his pipe, and all the rats and stuff would follow him.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Instead of listening to the Pied Piper, we should and follow all the way to destruction. We should listen to Krishna's flute.
Yeah.
Follow Krishna back to Godhead.
True. Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai, thank you, Mataji, for your reflection and comments. I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question so well, but
okay.
hey,
thank you.
Krishna will answer it.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just for Madaji's question, I just referred to the internet, Google it. It says Sunita is daughter of Yamaraj.
Yes, daughter of Yamaraj. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
And I think you'll find in this unfolding of this story, it's there also explained and maybe a little more detail. Okay, hey, thank you for that, Prabhu. You can utilize Google pretty quickly. It's great, actually. There's the benefit of it, and then there's the other side of it. But let's keep focused on the benefit. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, Krishna, I think we're going to finish there. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Jai Srila Prabhu ki
jai.
Hare Krishna.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Hari Hari. Now, I take it that we're off air. I'm not at all sure, but I sincerely hope so. I will just disconnect. How do you do that? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just leave the meeting.
I can't figure how to. You close the meeting now. Yes.
You are the host now, so
you
can do so.
How do I do it? I don't know.
There will be a button, leave meeting.
There's no button on my screen.
Let me find out.
Yeah, all I've got is Nanda Vraj Das at the bottom, and up top it says live, and there's my face here, and I can see myself on video, but I don't know how to stop it.
Prabhu, on the right.
On your right side, yeah.
Right.
The leave button, red leave button.
No, there's none. All I've got is blank screen. I've got Lord Chaitanya chatting, Japa or Rupa Goswami. I've got me talking, and I've got live up in the top left, and there's a camera and a microphone up on a green button up the very top.
Yeah, Prabhu, sorry, Prabhu. Yeah, I got back the host privilege. I can end the meeting now.
Oh, good man.
Thank you, Prabhu. Haribo.
Please
Hare
take
Krishna.
all the stuff off.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.